Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Sometimes I make snap decisions. It doesn't happen often. I'm a planner. Many would say schemer. There is a difference. But the chair's going to go. I've sort of made my mind up. I've had to think about how many times I've actually sat down in that chair. I've talked about sitting in the chair, but actually doing it happens very, very rarely. The one who uses the chair most is one of my cats. He'll find somewhere else. Cats will sleep anywhere, and they do a lot of that, sleeping. So I'm going to move the chair. It's coming out. It takes up a lot of space, restricts access to various areas. Yeah, and takes up a lot of floor space as well, which, you know, restricts me moving around, getting at the plants and things. So I think the chair's going to go. The idea will be that I'll probably get another set of these, this type of shelf, the one that's a bit lower. I might even go for one of these, which is even lower again. But, because I mean, one of these would fit in quite nicely. As I've said before, plants grow, you know, and a plant that fitted on a shelf like this, which has a restricted height, grows big enough that the leaves start getting tangled up in the top, so it doesn't fit there anymore. It then has to find a taller place, and the most obvious tall places are on the top shelves. Well, those are my highlight shelves, and some of the plants aren't suited to being on highlight shelves. I mean, even things like Nobiles, I mean, they stay there because I've got nowhere else I can keep them. They're just too tall. They don't need that highlight during their growing season. You know, deciduous forest dwellers, in their growing season, they get soaking wet most days, and they've got a tree canopy above them. So they're not in highlight situations. That changes when the leaves fall and the rain slows down or stops. But yeah, so I'm thinking that a set of shelves along here that would be set right back, obviously, gives me more floor space, more options as well. I mean, even a fogger could sit on the top shelf of those shelves or on a lower shelf. So it would give me more options, and I think I need to go down that path. I mean, at the moment, it seems like I've got quite a lot of space, but as you know, there's quite a few plants missing at the moment. They've gone off to Malvern. They'll be back. And so will the plants I buy at Malvern, if any. You know, collections grow. And although I've got to the stage where I don't need any more orchids, I'm happy with what I've got, I don't need any more, but that's not going to stop me seeing something special and wanting to add it. That's going to happen. I don't think that'll ever stop. So obviously, you know, accommodation has to be made. Plants get split and you end up with, you know, the best bit and another bit to grow on and sell. But in the time it takes to grow on and sell, it still takes up a bit of space. So there's always movement in a collection. Things coming in, you know, things that you lose. We all lose a plant now and again. That's just part of the game. That just happens. An expert, or a so-called expert, said to me, you can't become an expert without a wake of dead plants in your path. That was his expression, a wake of dead plants. Hopefully we're not all that blinking bad, but everybody loses a plant now and again for one reason or another. So, you know, space is made. One plant out, perhaps another one in. And maybe not a replacement, but something different. So, you know, our collections change. They morph. You know, a lot of people have started off with one Phalaenopsis, you know, possibly a present. And then they thought, that's nice. I could have a couple of those on my windowsill, which is what I did. And then you end up with a flipping place like this after a while. Some would say it's an obsession. Well, it's a hobby, and I enjoy it. And I'm at my limit. I don't want loads more plants. So getting an extra set of shelves doesn't mean lots more plants. What it does mean is being able to move things around to get them in the best place for that plant, instead of that'll have to do because it's the only place I can put it, if you see what I mean. You know, sometimes a plant is in the only place that it can be because of its size or its shape, you know, so you end up compromising. So that's the idea. Now I've got 2 days away coming up, so I've got a bit of planning to do. This new fogger has got an on-off switch. So obviously, you know, it gets left on and the hydrostat decides when to put the power in and actually get the fog going. And then when it's got enough fog and the humidity's gone up, it shuts it down again. And this has got an auto cut-off. So if it runs out of water, it just cuts the power. However, these two are a bodge. It's a bodge I've had to do. These were cheapo second-hand foggers and they have done well for what they are, but they're not ideal for this environment. I mean, you can see the bodge. Basically the buttons on these are digital press-in buttons, and to start the thing up you press the power button and away it goes. But what happens with the hydrostat is that the hydrostat cuts the power, and because it's got a digital on-off button, when the hydrostat comes back to put the power back on, the unit doesn't start. It needs the button pressed again, which is a right pain. So I've had to bodge. Basically the button is forced in permanently, and that allows the hydrostat to actually turn them on and off. My worry is that because the power is forced on, what's going to happen when they run out of water? Which they will do. It looks like we're in for good weather on Saturday and Sunday. Well, they'll get filled up on Saturday and they'll use most of their water on Saturday. Sometime during Sunday they're going to run out of water. So I've just done a test basically. I unwired it from the hydrostat, virtually emptied it and plugged it in so that it was permanently on to see what happens when it runs out of water. And when it ran out of water, it's got like about a 20-second warning on it, and the beeper goes off several times loudly to say I am running out of water, and then about 20 seconds later it goes off again, big loud beeps, and shuts it down. So irrespective of the fact that the power button is pressed on, the auto shut off still actually works and cuts the power when it runs out of water. And so, you know, I'm okay to leave these and let them run out of water sometime on Sunday, and they'll be fine. And then as soon as I get home on Sunday, I can fill them all up again. So I've got watering and stuff to do today. I don't think I'm going to find anything new. I might find a few sort of changes, you know, a few spikes. They just turn up out the blue, but I'll see how I go. But I think the main reason for the video is just a change round. I've got wasted space, and you know, that to me is a luxury I can't afford. I can't afford to waste space. I need to get my plants where I want them to be for the plants' sake. And I think another set of shelves in here releases floor space, allows me easier access to the shelves I've currently got, and some extra shelves will give me the ability to put tall plants on the top shelf that don't need high light. They're the problem ones at the moment. I mean, some of these tall oncidiums, like this one, I mean, that shouldn't be right near the glass like that. That should be set back. You can see the leaves are quite pale on that new growth. So, you know, I need to be able to adjust plants as far as the distance from the glass is concerned. My problem being the tall plants. You know, I literally remove a shelf to allow plants to come up through the gap. And that's a shelf I now can't put plants on. So I think the choices are more important than the chair that virtually... I think I've sat in that chair for about 2 hours this year, and not all at once. So it's taken up space that could be better used. So we'll have to say bye-bye to the chair, I think. If I want to sit down in here and read a book or something or other, I'll bring one of the dining room chairs in. It's not the end of the world. But it's been a feature literally since I set this place up, this wicker chair with the cat asleep on it. So it'll be a change, but I think overall it's a change for the better. It allows me to put plants and give me more choices. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do. So I need to get on with it then. I need to order some shelves. I've got to have a good think as to whether I want that height, this height, that height's out. I would lose that rack if I have a tall shelf there, and I'd have plants up in wiring and electrics, which I don't want. So it's probably going to be a set of the lower ones. Yeah, that way tall plants can sit on the tall shelf and still be okay, and I can literally have a very low shelf and probably leave this shelf off to get some taller plants. So I'd end up with a shelf like that for tall plants and another top shelf for tall plants if necessary. And for young stuff and things recently repotted that aren't that big, they can go on the bottom shelf. So I'll see how I go anyway. If I don't film anything else, thanks for dropping by, and see you next time. Otherwise I'll be adding bits on the end. You know me. Right, bull by the horns. I've ordered another set of that size. I like these because they've got this middle reinforcing bar, which means if you put heavy stuff on, they don't give out in the middle like some of the other shelves do. So, I mean, that's a decent set. The only problem with buying these is they are effectively a greenhouse, so they do come with a plastic cover, which you then have to waste. But when you see the shelves for sale separately, they cost more, which is silly. So, okay, I've got to waste the greenhouse cover, unless anybody wants one. I think I've got 2 or 3 lying around, maybe even 4. And I've also ordered another one of these, because I thought if I've got another set of shelves here, I can rearrange foggers and actually have another one, you know, in a different place, because I'll have room to move plants around. So chair gone, new set of shelves to go along there. I know the height of this actually encroaches on this, but basically all I've got to do is, that's just a couple of screws and hung on, so that can go up a couple of inches, push that up, job done. And then this piece of mesh can go up to match it, and then it won't encroach on the top of that shelf. So relatively easy job to move a few things and get a new set of shelves in, get rid of the chair and a new fogger. And I mean, if you look at the cost of those shelves and the new fogger is the equivalent of, that's an ant, he said all in one sentence, is the equivalent of 3 plants, you know, and they last forever. Well, that may not last forever, but a hell of a long time. Those are going to last forever. So for the couple of plants, you know, let's get the place sorted out, get myself some space, get some room to move. And I was just getting that down to water. There's another ant on there as well. I'm going to have a look round. They're getting in again. But that's opened in 2 days. That's all right, I'm just after that ant. I wonder if I could shake him off. No, maybe not. I'll get him in a minute. But that's just opened in the last 2 days. Literally, the new growth split. Yeah, it hasn't even opened its leaf properly yet, and the 2 buds pushed out straight away. And that's a Sophronites cernua, which is probably a Cattleya now, come to think of it. But those are pretty little blooms. I think that's going to open a bit more than that. I think it opens quite flat eventually, and a second bud. And there's another new growth at the top, whose leaf isn't open yet, that looks quite swollen at the base, so that may have a couple of buds on as well. Don't see any other new growths at the moment. No, probably just those 2. We'll see how we get on. But yeah, a nice little addition. Pretty little flowers. And as I said, it will open some more than that. Oh, let's see what else I can find. Well, this is my Psychopsis papilio variation alba. So it's the alba form of the species. Now this is a rescue plant that I don't hold out a lot of hope for. But it's still blooming. That's why I want to try and rescue it. I love that bloom. I like the normal form with the nice mahogany reds on, but I also like this one a lot. I mean, these are unusual shaped blooms, to say the least. Some sort of alien. The papilio is, whoever named it thought it looked like a butterfly, which, well, yes and no. I've never seen a butterfly with 3 antennae, but you can sort of see what they mean. Yeah. But I like the bloom. and the fact that it's got a bloom on it, I would keep it anyway, even if I was going to dump the plant eventually. It's a perpetual bloomer. It just keeps on chucking out a new bud after the old one dies back, and the spike just keeps going. But as for the plant, it's not a happy bunny. We'll see. As I say, this is its last chance as a plant. Cut the old leaves off, 2 leaves left, not in brilliant condition, no sign of new growths, and it didn't have a good root system, and it's quite desiccated. But we'll give it a chance. I think it's worth giving it a chance just because of that. It's a lovely bloom. Now I'm going to get fogged. Marvellous. I just thought I'd show this one. I know there's probably not a lot of people out there grow Restrepias, but if you were new to Restrepias, this is a useful bit of information on how they bloom, basically. You get a nice new growth like this, and eventually it will bloom. They bloom from the underside of the leaves, like here, yeah? So the leaf pushes out the bloom from the underside at the base of the leaf. Flipping great. Actually, it's not a cat hair, that's one of mine. But you can see that it's not a single bloom. Now, some of them might be, but this one pushes out many blooms. Once the leaf gets to the point where it decides it's actually going to bloom, it will keep going for a while. Now, it does leave behind these tatty bits, which I was just going around trimming off. You know, you get that sort of thing going on under the leaf. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to push another one out, but what it does mean is you get these tatty bits which make the plant look a bit unsightly. And I don't remember who it was, but apparently Houlisse is pronounced Ulyss. So there you go. I remember what people say. I don't necessarily remember who said it. If you imagine, you know, I do quite a few videos and how many comments there are in each video, I can remember what people say, but I can't necessarily remember who said it. And to go back through all my comments, try and flip and find out who said it and say thank you, is a bit of a big deal. But yeah, I mean, this one's having a nice little go at the moment. There's 4 blooms out at the same time. So yeah, nice little show. But they bloom on and off. I mean, this even blooms in the winter now and again. So yeah, they're quite nice. They warrant closer inspection. I mean, the shape of the blooms is quite unusual. I suppose reminiscent of the one we've just looked at. You know, it's a bit insect-like, a bit antennae-like. And it's strange, actually. We had a talk at the Orchid Society about the evolution of orchids and pollinators and the deception and ways that pollinators are attracted. And nobody has yet come to work out what the hell those 2 little dangly bits are for. You know, I mean, they're either petals or sepals. I mean, in its unusual form, they're one or the other. I can't remember which way it would be. In fact, they're probably petals, because no, I'm not going to risk saying what they are. But at the end of the day, nobody's really worked out what they were for. And I did remind people that in the evolutionary process, whatever this plant had in mind, it might not have finished yet. It might still have something to do. Yeah? That's how we see it, that's how we've always seen it. But in evolutionary terms, we're not going to be around long enough to actually see where this plant ends up in 10,000 years, if there's even a planet for it to live on. But yeah, I mean, just a thought, if you tidy up, watch out that what you're cutting off isn't live and green. You can see the difference. You know, if that was a spike with an emerging bud, you can see it's green. And the older ones, they dry fast, so they're easy to differentiate between, so you don't cut any good ones off. But tidying it up does actually work and make the plant look better. Well, this is one of my mini Phalaenopsis that's in a stage of recovery, but I think I can safely say it's recovered now. I mean, it's pushed out enough new roots to support a plant of that size. Yeah, I could have done with a couple of those aerial ones going down in the pot, but why I stopped was this plant. I've been watering the Phalaenopsis. Just this one has got a couple of mealybugs on, and I thought it might be interesting. When I just get a very, very small number like that, this is all that happens. Yeah, there's a couple in those leaf joints. Those could be bodies from last time. It's difficult to tell. But on Phalaenopsis, they have a habit of getting down in there. Yeah, so I'm just giving the base of the plant that I can get at a little bit of a drip with the... this is just rubbing alcohol. Yeah. That's all. Where was that other one on that leaf? There was one on a leaf somewhere. Yeah, see, that's not an outbreak. That's nothing. That is nothing more than that, and it's gone. The same there. Yeah, that looks like an adult that's decided to deposit something. So all of it is got rid of like that. It's just gone. So there's no need to soak the whole plant or go mad. And I look at my plants often enough that if I missed a couple of those little tiny white dots and they do decide to grow, I'll get at them next time. It's not worth spraying the whole flipping greenhouse. So yeah, just little spot treatments like that keeps on top of things. As I say, I do get a few down in the leaf joints now and again. And it's mainly, mealybugs tend to go for some of the dendrobiums, not all of them. I've got dendrobiums that I've had for years that have never had a bug on them, ever. And I've got others that get the occasional mealybug. Never had any scale on the dendrobiums. They're fussy little critters, aren't they? I wish they'd be fussy and stay outside and not come in here. But yeah, if you've got openings to the outside world in any shape or form, you're going to get some bugs now and again. You just got to deal with them, get on top of them. Don't let them get out of hand. Yeah, so that's just a little spot treatment for that one. Job done. Out of all my Phalaenopsis types, this is the one I'm looking forward to blooming again. It's been quite a while. I mean, the plant's doing okay. Its latest leaf is an absolute whopper. This is Sweet Memory, and it's not a bad spike. There's at least 3 buds. It may push a 4th, but these blooms I really do like, and fragrant. As far as the plant's concerned, it's got a reasonable root system. Not brilliant, but perfectly reasonable. There are growing tips in amongst those roots. See, if you look at Phalaenopsis type roots sometimes, this one's got damage on it. Now that could have been fertiliser burned from a while ago, may have even been like that when I got it, but if you follow that root down, it's actually got a growing tip and it's still capable of branching. So just because a root doesn't look elegant at the top of the pot doesn't mean to say it's not growing down in the pot. So yeah, it's okay. There's some more new roots down this side pushing down, but what I have just noticed is there are some rotting roots. Down in the base there are some roots that have gone. Yeah? You know me, when I see a problem, I deal with it. So that's going straight out and coming out of the pot, even though I'm busy today. Can't afford to leave a plant like that until next time round, because next time round for that plant will be next week sometime. And though that rot could have spread and done more damage. So get that one out of the pot now while I think about it. Now this Phalaenopsis green apple has been out in bloom for ages. And you know, these blooms aren't that long open, so it's still going to be in bloom for a while. This needed wiring on because the plant got so heavy it was pulling itself off of the mount and not really giving its roots chance to attach. Well, since it got strapped on, you can see there's some new root tips starting to push out and they will attach. So we should get this thing attached. Why I've stopped on this one, if I can do this one-handed, what I was saying about mealybugs and watching the back of your blooms. Yeah? There's a couple got in there, look, right in under the lip. Yeah, so there's a few there. There's a few on the back of that one. Yeah, so watch the back of your blooms. They hide and they will eat through and get brown spots on the front, because at the moment, looking at the spike from the front, there's not a sign of the little devils, but as soon as you turn it round and have a look round the back, there they are. So we'll get the old spot treatment on the back of those blooms. I mean, this is where the alcohol comes into its own because it evaporates so fast. So it does the killing job nice and quickly, but then it evaporates. Whereas if you use sprays and things like that, you get your blooms soaking wet, which, well, quite honestly doesn't do them a lot of good, and you'll start getting spotting and things on your blooms as a result of getting them soaking wet. So yeah, but we need to get at the back of those blooms, so I shall do that now, but I need two hands this time to hold these still and bend the petals out of the way so that I can get the job done. Orchids in the mist. You probably wonder why my Phalaenopsis don't get filmed very often, and why when I do they nearly all get a look at. Well, there's a very simple reason. They were due to be watered today, and quite honestly, if most of them need watering, they all get watered, even if some are still a little bit wet. You know, we're in really high light levels, long day lengths and everything like that, and if the media isn't completely dry this time of year, it doesn't matter as much. It just doesn't. Anyway, the reason is simple. They get a higher level of feed than anything else, which means the water in the bowl is just for them. So they all come out at once. Literally, I have to go round and find them all in their nooks and crannies, because they're not all on the same shelf or anything, and water them all together while I've got that level of feed in the bowl. So that's the reason they all come out together. It's purely that it's their turn to get a good feed today. So I had to find them all. And when I do that, you know, it's worth having a look at them. If they were getting a flush, they'd just get done hit and miss as and when I got to them. But because they all needed the feed level that was higher, they all got done together. That's the only reason you don't get an update on the Phalaenopsis very often. that's all it is. It's not contrived. It's not because I don't like them. They're not my favourites, but that doesn't mean to say I don't like them. They all have their place. Okay, I'm done filming for today. I may do a bit tomorrow. As you know, I film in bits, and in between those bits I do other things. You don't normally see the join, but I've been out. I had to go and get some stuff for the ants, because I've run out. And the place I went to had some lovely orchids, and I used to have an epidendrum. Not as good as that one. It was a wishy-washy, pale orange, but not yellow. Real washed out colour to it, and it grew and grew and grew, didn't bloom, got sadder and sadder, and ended up under the hedge. This looks like it could be a compact version instead of a, I mean, that thing was 3 foot tall and still didn't bloom, but it's got a good root system on it. It's got plenty of new growths. There's one there coming up to maturity, another one there, another one there, another one there, and another one there. So it's got stacks of new growths on it coming on. Chances are it's several plants been bunged in the pot. I know their game. But it has got nice blooms. They're a nice colour, you know, I'm a sucker for orange, and it's got more to come. And these spikes on these plants tend to extend, so they can last quite a long time. Sometimes they get a bit leggy, you know, because the older blooms at the bottom die off, a bit like some Phalaenopsis, but the spikes are capable of extending. So it's a nice little plant, didn't cost too much money, and what it's in is reasonable bark, at least for the top inch, because it fell over all over the car seat and all the bark came out. So I know what's in the top of the pot, and it's not bad. So it can stay in there for a bit till I get round to dealing with it. But yeah, nice little plant. No ID, but I may well be able to find an ID. I mean, it's a radicans type. But nonetheless, if it stays compact and has pretty blooms like that on it, I'll be pleased. So one new plant, not from Malvern, just a garden centre plant basically. They had some absolutely stunning Miltonia sunsets, really good quality plants, plenty of new roots pushing down, and most of them had a couple of spikes and some of them had a third one coming on behind. They were some really good plants, and quite a few Miltoniopsis, but Lots of Her Alexanders. Well, I've got that one. There's no point in getting the same again, is there? And they had another white one that had a different pattern on it, but too similar to warrant the difference. They had a gorgeous purpley red one with a lovely splash pattern, waterfall pattern, whatever you call it. But again, they were all single bulbs. Well, a Miltoniopsis doesn't grow like that. You can't have a single bulb that's blooming size. So it's been split off a larger plant, stuck in a pot because it's got blooms on to sell. And chances are it had no roots on it. So I didn't bother with that one, but I bothered with that one. That looks like quite a good plant. Good healthy root system at the top of the plant at least. And stacks of new growths to come on to bloom later. So pleased with that one. Okay, thanks for dropping by. See you next time.